Okay, so in this video we are going to talk about event-driven programming. And this is the kind of programming you did in microworlds whenever you set up rules for the turtle. So basically, the idea behind event-driven programming is there's a kind of this event loop that's waiting out in the world, and in Logo it's behind the scenes. It's a little less behind the scenes in the Python stuff that we're going to do, but the way it works is basically microworlds is waits for you to click on the turtle. When you click on the turtle, it does whatever the rule is in here, right? 4, 5, wait, 1, whatever, right? And it'll do that. If you just have it clicked once, it'll just do it once every time you click, right? Or it'll do it forever. Same thing with on color. When you click a color, something's going to happen, right? There's also this on tick. So the on tick says every 10 ticks, and a tick is 1/10 of a second. So every 10 ticks means every second we are going to type something out. So, or we're going to do some activity. So let's just write a procedure called tick. So right now, if we try to do that, he's going to say, I don't know how to tick. Right? I don't know how to tick. And he's going to say that every second. But what we can do is we can write a procedure to tick, and we can just show tick. Okay. So now if so now it's doing tick, 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 tick. Okay. So every second it's saying tick, tick, tick. So we can do the same kind of thing in Python. I'll show you how to do that. So, and basically the way to stop this, let's see, does it stop if we hit stop all? Yeah, it looks like hitting stop all will stop it. So, let's look at Python for a second here. So what would that look like in Python? So in Python, we have a special module called Simple GUI. So this module, I think we talked about this before, possibly when there are other modules that you can import, but Simple GUI is one. And basically what it is you know how in microworlds you have a bunch of primitives that are pre-written that you can use. Well, Python has a bunch of pre-written primitives, but it also has a bunch of pre-written functions that you don't get automatically. You have to import them. So you have to say, I want all the functions that are in the Simple GUI package. So I'm going to import Simple GUI. Okay, and then that way you can get all the things that go along with Simple GUI. And if you want to know more, if you click on the docs here, it'll bring up documentation. You click on graphics, and that brings up all the Simple GUI stuff. So we're going to look at the Simple GUI timers right now in here. So there are different methods available. You can create a timer, start a timer, stop a timer, and timer is running. We'll just check to see if it's running or not. Okay. So what do we have here? So what we do here is we imported Simple GUI. we wrote this little event handler, which is just like the procedure that we wrote in microworlds. Let me make this bigger. Make sure you can see it. Okay, so in microworlds we wrote this procedure called tick, and it just says show the word tick exclamation point, and that's all it does. Alright, so in using the simple GUI module, I called it a package. In Java they call these things packages, but in Python they refer to these as modules. So there's a simple GUI module. We wrote this little event handler. So it's just a procedure called tick, and it does basically the same thing as our microworlds one does, right? We define the procedure tick. So remember, in microworlds we define a procedure by saying to the procedure name, we write our instructions, and then we write end. In Python we say def, and then the procedure name, we have to put parentheses even if we don't have any parameters, even if there aren't any input parameters for this function, we need to put parentheses. So here we just have empty parentheses because we don't pass anything on to the tick function. We just call it without any parameters. And then we put the colon, and then we go to the next line and we indent everything underneath tick. So then we say that we want to belong to that function. So we're just saying print tick here. Then what we're going to do is we register the handler. So this is something that you don't have to do in microworlds. So this is important to remember, that you have to register this guy. You're creating a timer object. So it's kind of like, so you know how you can in microworlds you can create a turtle, you can create a text box, you can create a project variable. There are different things you can create, right? In Python there are way more things that you can create than in microworlds. So one of the things you can create is a timer. So we're using the simple GUI package to create a timer. Okay, so when you import a module, the way that you call a function that belongs to that module is you put down the module name and a dot, and then you call the function. Okay, so this create timer function is right here in the documents. Okay, we say create timer with the inputs interval and time handler. Okay, so we're here where it says create timer 500 timer handler. The numbers that you put in here for time handler is in milliseconds. So that means 1,000 is the equivalent of 1 second. So it's a much more finer grain division of time than in microworlds. In microworlds we get tenths of a second. In Code Sculptor we get thousandths of a second. Okay, so we're looking at, so 1,000 means 1 second, and then right here tick is the name of the function that we're going to call every 1,000 milliseconds, every second. Okay, so basically this line, this piece right here does part of the work that you see in microworlds right here, right? So as it says, on every tenth of a second we're going to call the function tick. So the way you set that up in Python is you say every, I'm sorry, I said that wrong, because it says every 10 tenths of a second, so that basically every second we're going to call tick. And then in Python, we're saying we're going to create a timer, and every second, because that's 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second, every second it's going to call the function tick. So we could have named this function anything we wanted to, right? But it needs to match this function name, because this is the function that we want to call. Okay? So this says call this function every second. All right? And it basically, right at this point, we're just creating a timer that knows how to do this. We haven't told it to actually do it yet. So we create the timer that knows how to do this, and we assign it to this variable timer. So now we have this new object, this timer object that knows how to call this function every second. Okay. To start it off, we have to actually say start. Okay. So and here, the way to think about this one, we have this timer object, and then you say dot start. The way to think about this is it's kind of like in micro worlds, when you want to talk to a particular turtle. If you have two turtles and you want T2 to do something, so you have to let me clear this. You have to say, oops, I'm ticking again. I'm gonna just this is another thing that's kind of a pain in micro worlds, that you don't have an easy way to stop and start the tick business. So you can hit this stop button, but then when you start doing stuff again, it'll start up again. So I'm just going to take this out for now. But because I just want to illustrate now, if you want to talk to a particular turtle, you can say, or you can say like ask T2 to go forward 5, something like that, right? Did T2 go forward 5? Couldn't see. Oh yeah, or 20, probably easier to say. Okay, so you have to ask that particular turtle. So there's a similar idea in Python, in that once you create this timer, if you want this timer to start, you have to ask this timer, because you can actually create a bunch of different timers, right? I could create, what other kind of timer? Like I could have a beep timer that beeps every 5 seconds. It calls the beep method, and then I'd have to write a function. Then I'd have to write a function called beep, right? And just print beep. Okay, and then I could start the beep timer also. Okay, so I could do that. So I'm going to comment this out first, because I want you to see with just the first timer we created what this is going to do. So right now we're just creating this one timer and starting this one timer. If I say this, see, he's printing out tick every second. Okay, and now to stop this, we can just do that. Okay. And what else? Okay, yeah, so let me throw in the beep timer now. So now if I just create the beep timer, but I don't tell it to start, it's not going to do anything. Okay, we're still just seeing the tick. All right. But if I start the tick timer, and then I also start up this beep timer. Let's see, and the beep should happen every... Oh yeah, the beep is happening more often, right? Because I said 5/100ths. So let me make the beep every 5 seconds instead of every half a second. All right, let's see what happens now. So I should get beep. Okay, so every 5 seconds we get a beep. And this is interesting. Let me talk about that for a second too, because you get, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks and then a beep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks. So the beep and the timer, they might land, actually they might happen at exactly the same time. Like what happens if events happen at the same time? And in fact, you remember, I mean, you know, in micro worlds there are lots of different events, right? There are, you know, there's an event. So there's an event for if you click on the turtle, if you hit a certain color, if you touch another turtle. Also, like clicking a button is an event, right? Because it makes this instruction happen, whatever instruction you want to do. Or, you know, so there are different kinds of, or clicking the mouse on a particular color can be an event, right? If I say edit white, if I say, you know, on mouse down, show mouse pause, and every time I click on white, it'll show me the mouse pause. So there are all different kinds of events that you can have. So you can imagine if you're in a timer, if you have a timer running and you click right at the same time as the timer fires, that, you know, there could be some conflicts there, right? So let's see. So how do we handle that? So the way that gets handled is by something called an event queue, and I'll wait and explain that in the next video because this one's already gone way too long.